there is absolutely no evidence, and every economist will tell you this, that there is any job loss related to the Affordable Care Act.
Absolutely no evidence? The White House's point person for Obamacare must have forgotten this point. Companies announcing plans to cut jobs or their workers' hours due to the health care law. And this survey showing nearly half of U.S. companies may reduce their workforce because of the law. Not to mention the alarming recent report from the Independent Congressional Budget Office. So is Obamacare hurting jobs or not? Hi, everybody. I'm David Aslan. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus with Steve Forbes, Rich Karlgaard, Elizabeth McDonald, Sabrina Schaefer, Rick Unger, and John Tamny. John, let's start with you. Is it hurting jobs or not?
Well, the Secretary's comment is a reminder of how fraudulent the economics profession has become. Now, she exaggerates that they all feel this way, but the simple truth is Obamacare is a huge cost for businesses. That's going to reduce profits. Reduced profits mean less investment, which means lower job creation. You don't need a PhD to state the obvious. This is common sense. It's anti-capital formation, so anti-job creation.
All right, but I don't mean to demean every economist, but she said every economist. We've spoken to economists who don't say that. Even Democratic economists will admit there's going to be some job loss.
Yeah, I will agree with you that saying every economist is a bit of an overstatement, because I, too, know some economists who disagree with her. However, I'll make 2 quick points. First, I will remind you that just 2 weeks ago, AOL tried to pull a big change in their 401k program, blaming Obamacare. Nobody bought it. It was a lie, and they had to back off of it, because a lot of companies are trying to blame Obamacare when they really want to do something else. Point number 2, remember, 96% of American businesses do not employ enough employees to even be qualified for Obamacare. So we're only talking about 4% of the companies, and a number of them are self-insured. The numbers are not
Steve,
as big
they
as you
just
think.
delayed, as we talked about last week, a portion of Obamacare, or I say they, President Obama delayed it, that dealt with 40 million workers. We're not just talking about a piddling amount of workers here. We're talking about a lot of people.
Yeah, and Obamacare originally wanted to extend the employer mandate, which means expenses for businesses that didn't have them before. And also, there's a big tax increase, David. If you earn more, your subsidies go down under Obamacare. So if you go from $35,000 to $50,000 a year, your equivalent tax bracket, when you add up all the taxes, including loss of subsidies, can reach 50%. So that's a mobility killer, job killer, mobility killer, un-American.
Un-American. Rich, the fact is that we already have not only the surveys, a lot of anecdotal evidence. The Economist just came out with a report focusing on individual job owners who are cutting back their staff, at least their full-time staff, because of Obamacare.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You know, the Congressional Budget Office, which is nonpartisan, esteemed by both parties, predicts that 2 million people will leave the workforce. Now, this, comes down to the definition of what is a job loss. I think when 2 million people decide to leave the labor force from an already abysmal labor participation rate, that counts as job loss. The CBO predicts we're going to have 61% labor force participation by 2017. That breaks all records on the downside.
And Sabrina, it's not just the right-wing fanatics who are saying this, by the way. The University of California at Berkeley. We used to call it Berkeley in the old days, by the way. Berkeley is saying this.
They absolutely are. Look, this is a perfect time to quote Mark Twain, right? Lies, damn lies, and statistics. The facts are on our side. And as UC Berkeley has released, they are anticipating over 2.3 million jobs being cut down to fit that 30-hour minimum. The CBO, but look, it's not complicated. $500 billion in new taxes, $800 billion in new regulations, and $1 trillion in new subsidies. This is not a recipe for job creation.
And then, Emac, there is also the disincentive for work. We talked about that. CBO report talked about that. Alan Blinder was talking about that. He, of course, is a Democratic economist. He was with the Clinton administration. He says your health care subsidy declines as you earn more, and that, of course, dulls the incentive to work. just as if your wage rate was falling. So there's also this aspect.
Yeah, there's also that aspect. And, you know, this is sort of like what the CBO study was saying, that you're going to be liberated from your job, right? This is the Democratic line right now. We're going to be liberated. Right. That's what health reform does. It allows us to be liberated from. Listen, I like to learn to play the piano and then have everybody subsidize me. But, you know, what we're talking about is also, what Sabrina is talking about is absolutely right. The lunatic complexity of health reform. It's turned into, what's that saying? A camel is a horse designed by committee.
Right.
And that's hurting small businesses who are already paying effective rates, total tax in, all in. Thirds of their profits to taxes. Medical device makers are seeing layoffs. They are already laying off people because of the excise tax on their sales. So what the Madam Secretary says is provably wrong. The fact that there are thousands of layoffs in the medical device industry already taking place over the last couple of years, directly attributable to health reform, also the layoffs in schools and cities across the country.
And John, for her to say there is absolutely no evidence, every economist says this, how much longer do you think it'll be before they realize people don't believe what they say when they come out with these statements?
Well, you know, it's another gift from the Obama administration, discrediting the Obama administration. What interests me also is I think a couple of years ago they were saying this was actually going to stimulate growth. Well, this would be the first bill that would actually reduce labor participation, that would increase economic growth. They keep grasping for straws here, and it's not working. They are being exposed, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Rick, it's fun unless you're on the receiving end of being told by your employer, I'm sorry, we can't keep you on as full-time anymore because of Obamacare.
Is there a question there?
Yeah.
What was the question?
The question is, that's not fun, is it?
No, I don't think I would have chosen the words that John did, but I really do like that a camel is nothing but a horse made by committee. I've never heard that before.
You have.
I've learned something today.
Oh,
look,
really?
let's be a little bit careful about this whole CBO report that Rich said counts as losing jobs. It doesn't. It's illogical. I actually don't like the idea that anybody might be incentivized not to work because of government subsidy. I'm with you on that. But remember, there is a certain portion of those people who are going to leave their jobs that they had to keep their health insurance and go start new businesses, which is good for the economy. Let's not forget that.
Well, but Steve, the point is what's good for the economy right now, Steve Forbes, is jobs. We need it more than we need anything else right now to get the economy moving. And anything that would hurt job growth is bad, right?
Yeah, well, this is a massive impediment, massive barrier to job creation and starting businesses. And even if you want to start a business, you have to have a plan, you have to have the prospects, and if you don't know what your costs are, good luck in getting the financing to do it. And even if you get the financing, how about growing it?
Sabrina, you want it in. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think this is highlighting the real tragedy of Obamacare is that we had an opportunity to separate health insurance, not health care, health insurance from our place of employment, to give a break to employers, to give more flexibility to workers, to lower costs all around. But instead, we've made that tie even tighter. So now we're seeing that the law is actually decreasing jobs instead of allowing just the opposite.
Medicare for all, baby. Medicare for all.
Secretary Sebelius should become a guide at Fantasyland in Disney World when she retires.
All right, well, we'll see. That's a job creation. Perhaps there's time for that one. All right.
Steve's willing to let her retire.
Coming up next, here we go again. Your tax dollars helped fund it. Now a Chinese company owns it. And guess who's left holding the bag on another green company? That's right, you.